Welcome back to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are here at CMA Fest, day one. It's still day one. It's all good. We're still here. We got Nice Horse. How's it going today, y'all?
It's great, thanks.
I'm excited to have y'all. It was, you were one of the first bands that I booked for my CMA Fest, and so I'm excited to meet y'all and sit down and chat.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you so much.
Well, and that's exciting for us, too, because this is our first CMA Fest.
Nice.
So we're really excited to be here and hanging out with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for CMA Fest, have you had a chance to get out and check anything out yet, or is this like your first?
This is pretty much it. We got here early enough to go check out one of our friends. Taylor Ray was playing the stage that we're going to be playing on Saturday, and so we were able to go see her. And in the saddest news of possibly all time, it turned out that Dolly Parton was here this morning, and I didn't know, and I missed it by like about 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't really gotten over it.
Yeah, she's pretty sad. She's been talking about it since then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They sent me earlier when I first got here. They sent me all the way up to that where they're doing the Dolly Parton thing.
Oh yeah.
And I go like not knowing anything, not knowing really what was going on. And I try to walk in there like, oh, you don't have access to come in, and I'm like,
no.
you know.
Oh my God. So
I thought and then I started, there was a whole bunch of us, and I was like, okay, something else. This is something else. This isn't where we need to be. And I found out, then I started seeing all the fans coming in, and they were all wearing like Dolly Parton
Right,
stuff.
so you're like, I see what's happening here. Well, you should have taken a page from Nice Horse's book, which is, we just tend to, there's often things especially at the beginning of career, we weren't invited to anything. And we would just walk in very confidently everywhere. And sometimes we'd get kicked out.
Yeah, but we usually would. But it got to the point that during one of the Canadian Country Music Award weekends, the security guard knew us by name because he kept kicking us out of things. And then we would get tickets and we'd show back up and we'd be like, hey, bud, we got our tickets this time. And by the end, he was just like, Katie, Brandy, are you allowed to be at this event? We're like, nope. And it got to the point, actually, that we ended up on the red carpet because we were like, let's see if we can just like get on the red carpet and see what happens.
And this is early on in our career. Like, we were just like, let's see how far we can get before they kick us off. We wanted to get kicked off because we were filming it. We thought it would be it'd be funny.
Yeah.
And instead, who's standing right at the front of the red carpet? And I will correct myself. This wasn't Canadian Country Music Awards. This was the Junos, which is like Canadian Grammys.
Yeah.
And it turned out that our favorite security guard guy was there, and he was just like, you know what? I've seen you get into everything else, so why would I kick you out now? And onto the red carpet we went.
We went through the whole thing, and then we still hadn't gotten kicked out yet, and they were letting us in, and we're like, can somebody kick us out?
Yeah.
Like, we had to ask.
We don't have tickets. We don't have seats.
We don't know where to go.
Yeah.
It was the most polite thing you could have done. It was like, excuse me, sir, could you please kick me out?
That's funny.
But you are making me feel better because if you weren't, maybe I wasn't going to be let in anyways.
Yeah. It was, they wouldn't. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, so maybe I was never. You're actually giving me a piece that I've been searching for all day.
This is the happiest she's been all day. So thank
Sweet.
you.
I'm glad I could bring you happiness.
Thank you so much. I feel a sense of relief.
But you mentioned Taylor Ray. We had her on earlier this morning.
She's the best. She's awesome.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And she crushed it when she played. It was so good. She's got such an amazing voice.
I was hoping to make it down there for a set, and I was looking at my clock or my watch, and I was like, I've got 20 minutes. I don't think I'm going to make it.
No.
That's the thing. It's so tough. Like, we're so excited to be here, and you want to check out everything you possibly can. And like, especially we have a lot of friends that are playing this week, and we want to go see, and we want to see, some of the artists that we love and admire, and we want to, and we have our own stuff to do. Right. And then on top of all of that, so like it's hard to fit it all in.
Right. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So speaking of your own stuff, you dropped a new album not long ago. Mm-hmm. How's everything been going with the new release? Where you kind of at right now is with that?
It's truly been amazing. Like we feel like this record it was a real labor of love for Katie and I. It took us longer than we had planned to make it, but we wanted to make it right, and it took us some time to find the right voice that complemented ours for this album and like production wise. And when we found that in Murray Pulver, who is the person who did produce this record, we like I couldn't be more proud of it. Like we had spent the years during the pandemic, like writing and writing and writing. Like we just didn't stop, and so we wrote so many songs that to become contenders for this record, and we ended up with like 7 of the songs I am most proud of that we've ever written.
Yeah.
Nice. And it is called Nice Horse, so it's a self-titled album, which that's really cool. And it, being a labor of love, sometimes that's what the self-titled album needs to be. It's
100%.
Yeah, there was no way to name it. When we were looking at it, we were like, we felt like this was like
new generation.
Yeah,
almost.
new generation, new beginnings. It's kind of how it felt because of the length of time and the different challenges, things that we went through as a band and personally in our lives.
Absolutely.
That when we just looked at it, and we looked at that album cover and the songs that were together, and we were just like, this is Nice Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick. And how long have y'all been playing together?
7 or 8 years.
Yeah, about that. But we've known each other for much longer.
Yeah.
We were friends much before that when we were both doing solo projects and other things in music, and we supported each other in music throughout the whole thing. But we never. It didn't dawn on us to be in a group together until it happened, kind of happenstance, accidentally. Yeah.
I was going to ask, what was that moment that it was like, oh, hey, we need to play together, but it sounds like it was like a show or something?
It started with the song.
Okay.
It started with songs because that's what we both love.
Yeah, we took a girls trip to Hawaii. Just,
Nice.
Just wanted to write songs just for the pure joy of writing music. There was no intention behind it other than that. But everything that we were writing, we were loving it. And it was all turning out country because that's the kind of music that Brandy and I grew up on. That's the music that we love. And so everything that we were writing was country, and we were just like, I love this. This could be something, you know?
That's always the best when it kind of organically just happens.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
because it started we got successful with it right away, which kind of tells you that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. So y'all are from Canada originally. Are you still based out of there, or are you down in Nashville now?
We are still based in Canada, but we spend, I would say, I mean, look, I spend more nights in Nashville a year than I spend in my own bed. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we Nashville really over the last few years has become a second home to us. It feels that way for both Katie and I because we tend to be, I would say 20% at home, 40% on the road, and 40% in Nashville.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Hey, you're going after your dream, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. So when you're on the road, are you pretty much touring around Canada, or will you tour to Nashville? Or?
It's early days for touring in the U.S. for us, but it's just starting to happen for us here, which is great. And so most of our touring to date has been in Canada and in Europe.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But the U.S. is something that we're looking forward to.
Calling our name.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's a different experience touring in the U.S. because Canada's big and whatnot, but it's I feel like in Canada, there's really only a certain amount of time a year you want to tour.
Yes, and trust me, we've toured in that time of year when you don't want to tour. We've done, and every Canadian artist has. Man, if you're not actually probably a Canadian artist if you haven't had to put chains on your tour van and go through the Rocky Mountain passes and the Coquihalla to get to your next show. We've all done that, and it's a little terrifying. But man, you love it when you're willing to go out in minus 40 Celsius weather and
tour like that
and tour like that. It takes a hardy musician to be able to do that.
In my very first band and our very first bus tour, this was a long time ago, but I actually got frozen inside the bus. They had closed the doors. We were very, very late due to a snowstorm. They kept me in the bus. They said, "You get ready. We'll get the gear in." And then they came out to get me, and the door had frozen shut. And I was just in the bus running up against the door we were trying to open windows. We were like, how do we get her out? It was that cold.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
I almost moved to North Dakota, the most northern part of North Dakota before you get to Canada.
Oh my gosh.
And it was July at the time, and it was a great time to be there.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to somebody, they're like, yeah, you're there in July. It's beautiful.
It is, yeah.
Give it 4 months.
Yeah.
Give it 4 months and see how much you really like it. When it's 5 p or 5 or no, 4 p.m. and it's dark
Yeah.
as all get out. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like-
and cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say a lot of people talk about this in Canadian music, and I think a lot of it rings true. Like some of those cities with the coldest climates
Yeah.
have the best music scenes in
Absolutely.
Canada. And like it does make a lot of sense because what can you do when it's cold and dark outside?
play music.
You play music
Yeah.
and everyone plays music and they gather and they play music and create communities and
Yeah.
it's like music communities and that's really special. And I notice it is a very unique thing about, I think, cold climate places that there is that opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
and you're right. Like, I mean, I grew up in Chicago. There's a huge music
Yeah.
scene there,
Okay,
and
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of people, a lot of musicians from Canada. Like, I've seen, I've had so many musicians from Canada that have come
Yeah.
down on the podcast, and it's like, this is not crazy, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah.
Totally.
So where are you guys kind of at creatively right now? Are you, obviously you just released a new album,
Mm-hmm.
you writing, recording, where are you kind of at?
I mean, we're writing all the time.
Yeah,
writing
that
is
never
something-
stops for
Yeah,
us.
that's something that never stops. But yeah, we already are looking towards what will be next. You know, we're still celebrating the fact that it took 4 years to get this
Fair.
record out, so we're very happy about that. But we're also really excited to get back into the studio, and so we keep writing. But we've also got a big collection of songs that didn't make it on this record because it just didn't fit with the theme of what this
Fair.
one
Yeah.
became. That we love too. That we're looking like so excited to get into the studio and record.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And,
Yeah.
You know, I love the fact that, you know, I love when musicians are always kind of looking at that next step and realize, like, hey, this is what it takes, especially nowadays in this modern music industry where it's like consistency and frequency. Like, it used to be consistency was key, but now it's like, no, frequency is just as much of a
Yeah.
key. So.
And I think that's a constant battle for artists as well because like, you know, it's frequency of what? Because right
Yeah.
now it seems like it's frequency of everything.
Yes.
And it is like, and I really pride ourselves as a duo of like how hard working we
Yeah.
are. But there are only so many hours in a day, and I feel like it's very challenging to be able to manage the frequency on that is now demanded in some sides of our industry with the frequency that is required to be a
Yeah.
great artist, a great musician, a
Yeah.
great songwriter, which are truly the pieces of us that we can't outsource to anybody else other than that has to be us.
Yeah, absolutely. AI can try, but it's not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It can try.
Mm-hmm.
So. But absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Outside of music, what do you like to get into? What do you do outside of music?
I wish we had. Like, I mean, we're talking about frequency. Our lives are just a frequency of music and music
Yeah.
adjacent activities for most of the time. But I mean, I love to run. Katie loves to run too. We're both avid
Nice.
runners.
Yeah. You can usually find me on horseback. I'm out with the horses a lot. That's something
Yeah.
that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love crafting and sewing. I'm like, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is horseback riding, is that pretty common, like, in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's how Brandy and I grew up. Like, we
Yeah.
grew up, I always say this, that my mom taught me how to ride a horse before I ever learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You know, like, my mom had horses before I was born.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it. I will say that apart from music, it is the one thing that I know.
Fair.
You know, when I'm around a horse,
Nice.
I know it's familiar. I understand it.
Yeah.
It's a companionship. It's like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're either with it or you're not, you know, and it's
Fair.
something that I truly love.
Fair.
And Brandy's a horse girl too, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
Fair. I only ask that because here it seems like it's more of a regional thing. It's like Texas, a lot of people are into
Right.
horses and
Yeah.
horseback
Yeah.
riding, but Chicago, where I grew up,
Yeah.
Well, and it is true. It's not all over in Canada.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, fair
Katie and I grew up in the Canadian prairies. I grew
Yeah.
up in Saskatchewan. Katie grew up in Alberta, and we both grew up on cattle farms out there.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's definitely like the prairies are full of horse people and farming and agriculture, and so that is the world we grew
Yeah.
up in.
awesome.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to check out your music, any of that fun stuff, social medias, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find us anywhere and everywhere. It's all at Nice Horse Music.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's
Thank
been an absolute
you.
blast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch y'all later.